The artists have always played this pivotal role of envisioning a new way of understanding ourselves and our communities, our relationship to this history. So many of our artists really make that the centerpiece of their visions.
San Antonio's origins lie in its historic missions, all of which we treasure and one of which we remember as the Alamo. It was in Querétaro, Mexico, that the Spanish missionaries were taught the languages and the customs and the indigenous populations they would encounter here. It was in Querétaro that they learned the survival skills they would need to travel north to the outer boundaries of New Spain to establish these missions. It was there where the San Antonio of today took root and grew, and it is there that the San Antonio's blended culture was born. Simply put, if it weren't for Querétaro, there would be no missions, no Alamo, and no San Antonio. Now, after more than 300 years, we rediscover and celebrate San Antonio's deep connection with Querétaro through artistic and cultural expression, a reunion 3 centuries in the making.
I always knew I was going to be an artist too. From a very young age, I just knew that this was the life for me. I would draw really large pictures on my parents' walls with crayons. And now when I smell bleach and water, I think of my childhood because my mom always had me cleaning the walls.
The reason I do this is just because I have to. I just have this thing that needs to get out of me.
I grew up with my father doing wood carving that he learned when he was in Mexico. And so I emulated that. I wanted to be an artist too.
It all starts with not being good with sports.
My family is a family of very hard workers. They did not see art as work. They saw it as a waste of time.
I went to first grade, and the first assignment the teacher gave us was to draw from our book, our reading book. So I got my crayons and I drew it. Then I looked to my right and to my left, and they weren't doing anything. I said, "You are gonna get in trouble." Then I realized later, they couldn't draw. And I didn't realize I had a talent.
I would work in the summertime in the fields. I started drawing stuff like that. I would see Diego Rivera and books about Frida and them and how they would do paintings of the fields and stuff like that. People and Aztecs and stuff with the corn. So I relate to that, and there was a lot of Latinos there. So they kind of did the same thing, and it just kind of was normal for me to do stuff like that during high school, and that's when I got into art.
I knew that creativity needed to be somehow devoured by my community. I quickly got interested in muralismo. We ended up doing, the mural projects on the west side, and those became a whole nother approach to image making and painting. But then the other part that was very important was distribution. Distribution of the imagery was so important, and that's where printmaking became a whole thing for me. And ever since then, it's just been amazingly beautiful just to get the work out there.
As a Chicana artist, I have been very much influenced by Mexican printmakers. They were some of the first prints I ever saw. I knew right then and there that I was supposed to be a printmaker, and that was part of me somehow. A lot of the women in my works are me, but they are my mother and they're my daughter. composite characters of the experiences that we've gone through. And so the images where I make of my mother or my mother's experiences, now I understand them more now that I'm older, because as you get older and if your parents have passed, you realize things about their life that you didn't know before.
I'm a plein air artist. I paint on location what I see. I don't complete on location, but I'll be there for a couple days and work at my studio. I also do portraits of people who sit in front of me. I love telling people that I did a self-portrait in 1972. And my mom had come home from work. She was tired. She was reading a newspaper like this. I go, Mom, I did a self-portrait. And without putting the paper down, she goes, cute. And you probably noticed on Facebook, I put the word cute on everything. Well, that's from my mom.
I have always been a photographic artist. I loved rock and roll photography, but I mixed and mingled with people who were artists, those rock and roll photographers, as far as I was concerned, were artists. They were creative people, and they expected me to be creative about their images. So it was never a problem having to choose between photography and art. I can't choose.
This is one thing about a self-taught woodcarver, is that your models are around you, and sometimes yourself. You don't have any particular person or whatever, but sometimes they're in your thoughts, in your mind, and you'll carve that. I try to get a lot of ideas, lost things, lost stories. When I first started carving santos, I carved just primarily santos. But as it evolved, now I'm carving stories and things that I want to pass on. It's like the rogativa, the promesa del Alamo, the things that I want to pass on to a younger generation. They remember that, hey, these things happened here. There were Hispanics at the Alamo. We had Mexican Americans here.
I paint the stories of my family. Here he is catching a bear. He lassoed a bear on a ranch that he worked in. As you see, he didn't shoot it, he lassoed it. But they wrote him up in the newspaper, and he was able to capture the bear because he was dangerous. I mean, he could kill people. So he was the hero that, that's protected the people.
Art has been an important way that I've used images in my classes on the borderlands, on migration studies, to show an image that will resound in someone's mind, with students' minds. They remember those potent images much better than something that they read in a textbook or something that doesn't really resonate with them as a person in their experience.
Mel is best known for a series of monumental paintings known as Humanscapes, and it had a very interesting origin. He was just driving down a road, he looked up for an instant, and he saw a drive-in screen, and a woman was speaking in close-up, but it looked like she was munching on the trees in the foreground. And so that inspired more than 150 monumental paintings done over a period of almost 25 years. And then the works that are featured in this exhibition are what he called the Southwestern cliches. So in these Southwestern cliches, he tried to distill the essence of ideas about the Southwest, and it has a tremendous sense of place, often Mexican-inspired experiences, the connection between Mexico and San Antonio.
I love to paint murals because there is more opportunity to tell a story. I also love that they are public, so you don't have to have money to go visit most murals. Anyone can go. They really are for the communities that they're placed in. San Antonio has a really large community of muralists. Because I haven't been doing murals that long relatively, I wasn't really a part of that scene. It was in the summer of 2022 when after the shooting at Robb Elementary in Uvalde happened, they were looking for artists from Texas to paint the 21 victims. And I remember I wrote why I wanted to paint Amory Jo Garza in particular, and I felt moved as a parent myself, I really wanted to be a part of that. And so when I went to Uvalde, I got to meet artists that felt like equally passionate about it and wanted to, what can you do when something that horrible happens? What can you do to be part of the healing? And so I saw that as a great opportunity.
I did teach art for 15 years, and I would always tell my students, art is the one subject that encompasses all of the understandings of humanity, of how we record ourselves, how we depict ourselves, how we understand science, how we calculate with math, how we write about our lives.
Jesse had a particular eye for the beauty of our community that is really emerges out of a segregated part of San Antonio's history. For Jesse, this was important. It was an important part of how the world would begin to see us. Now, we want to remember that when Jesse goes to New York before the Vietnam War, he's taught by William Draper, who's the painter of kings and presidents and military battles. Jesse was able to take that stature that gets embedded in when you paint John F. Kennedy and see that in a building. Because in a building, he's not necessarily seeing what we would see as the structure. He's seeing the personality of the community. Paintings that begin to present a sense of pride, not necessarily for people that are trying to understand us, but for those of us that somehow in our own hearts, we see exactly what it is that he sees. So for Jesse, these are not landscapes or streetscapes. They are the breathing entity of the community. And this dialogue begins the unfolding of, I think, what the world and what San Antonio now is able to look at itself and appreciate itself and see the grandeur of all levels of wherever it is that you are in San Antonio.
I'm from San Antonio, the west side of San Antonio. I always feel I have to make a point to say that I'm from the west side because it's very important in my art, where I'm from. One thing that I learned from Jesse Trevino, especially when he was driving, because he'd be driving and then be, oh, look at that beautiful flower on the, and I mean, well, look at the road, look at the road. And he would just be in awe with his surroundings. And that's something that you have to learn as an artist, is to look, is to take a good look at everything. One day, I left the house early in the morning and I saw this prostitute. She looked beautiful. And then I came home for lunch and she was on another part of Guadalupe Street. She still looked beautiful. Then when I was coming home late at night, she was still out there. So I did a series of paintings of this woman. I put her on all these street corners on Guadalupe Street. It's a 5 little series of paintings of this woman. And there's no judgment. It's almost a taboo subject, and people shy away from those things. But I don't. I think it's interesting, and it's just life. And it happens in my backyard.
I am not embarrassed to say that in college, it was my white boyfriend who said, you need to learn your mother tongue again. And what most of us lack, those Chicanos, Mexican Americans, who lost their mother tongue, is that cognitive academic language proficiency, where I could talk to another artist about engravings, intaglio, woodblock, and know all the technological terms for it. So for me, my imagery was something about wanting to investigate that, investigate that loss of language and regaining it again.
I first encountered Árboles de la Vida in a book that I bought about this topic, the ceramic trees of life from Mexico. And the forms were so beautiful and intricate. And in reading about it, you know, the provenance of the tree of life, and so many of the trees of life that you encounter are about the creation of the world. It became apparent that trees of life, Árboles de la Vida, had evolved to something that could tell any kind of story. And it occurred to me that the form of the Árbol de la Vida could make a wonderful headdress or crown, flower crown, like the flower crowns that the nuns had in Mexico, or the way I like to think of it is a thought bubble. So the primary person in the painting, what they are thinking about or obsessing about at the time.
I consider myself a Mexican-American photographer. I can't escape the culture of San Antonio. I mean, we have so much diversity in San Antonio, and when I've been asked to do commercial work like Fiesta, covering Fiesta, I discovered Chadeada, and that led to a whole series of artwork that led to a book, and it's been very popular, it's been very well received, and it just led me to want more.
Like most events in San Antonio incorporate some kind of art. I feel like if San Antonio has elevated celebration to an art form itself, everything is sort of like a performance and un encuentro, un living activation. A lot of people like to express themselves with clothing, with jewelry, with what they're wearing.
What I choose to pay homage to is the cultures from Mexico. Because, you know, if I do abstract expressionism, that's already been done. That has nothing to do with my culture, that has nothing to do with my heart, nothing to do with my soul. I respect its place in art history, but that, like I always say, that's their art. So my art is a reflection of Mexican culture from my perspective.
The reason why I make the artwork that I make is because I'm attempting to make connections with my ancestral past, my cultural lineage, oral tradition, language, music, all the things that give me a sense of who I am. I gave myself an artistic prompt many years ago to reinvent myself from the collage-based work I was making as an undergrad into making things that had more conceptual weight to them. At the time, I was exploring my identity as a Latino and somebody who was identified as a Texan. And I stumbled upon the carved wood aesthetic, carved wood painting aesthetic that I employ today.
I think all skin colors are beautiful. They're all creation of God. You know, that's His art. It's embedded in our skin. I'm just totally trying to show something different through my work and just show the beauty in all of us and the magnificence in all of us. Art can really help bridge cultures and create connection to our shared humanity.
My wife Kathy and I live in San Antonio, but we also live in Querétaro because we love both cities so much. We love both countries so much. That's why this exhibition, Al Otro Lado del Espejo, the other side of the mirror, is an exhibition that binds our two cities together. It is an exhibition that tells a story about two cities and how much history there is between them.
It's a great opportunity for the people of San Antonio to get to know more about the people from Querétaro and from the Queretanos to know more about the people of San Antonio. When two spirits from different places join together in a piece of art, I think that's one of the most beautiful things that can happen to people, that they see on the other side of the mirror what their brothers and sisters are living in the other side of the border.
It is incredibly important to be woven into the fabric of the San Antonio art scene and to be acknowledged by my peers. There are many of them that I walk in their footsteps. It's incredibly important to be part of exhibitions and opportunities like this. It strengthens our San Antonio art community.
I think this is a really special opportunity to show our work in Mexico, because it's not something that we get to do often. You know, this is the first time I've really heard of an organized effort to do something like that. Again, it's also part of creating a dialogue, you know. Maybe we'll next have artists from Querétaro having a show here in San Antonio, and we can meet them and see what inspires them, you know, and do they know the connection to do they know they're responsible for the missions and all of that?
I'm hoping that, first of all, they'll like what they see, and second of all, that they will feel a connection, that what we are here in San Antonio is not much different than them. In other words, they're going to feel a similarity, they're going to feel comfortable, they're going to like it, they're going to just hopefully get a good feeling.
For me to show my work in Mexico, those are the people that inspire me to do the work. Those people, those places, and that's what my work is about. It's celebrating them.
My career as an artist was started because I lived in Mexico City for a period. I didn't know that what was going to come out of that was a career as a painter, but it was such a formative experience in how I understand myself and how I understand my culture and what's important to me. So the opportunity after 7 years or something of hard work, of working on my craft, to have something to offer, have something to bring back, means so much to me. It feels like a returning of a gift almost.
Being invited to be part of this exhibit is like being invited to someone's home, and I appreciate that invitation.
My message to Queretanos who are coming to see the wonderful San Antonio artists in the museum is to come and reunite with your family. Perhaps you didn't know, but we've been here, and we want to celebrate what has made us one family in this diaspora of Mexico and the United States, specifically San Antonio and Querétaro. I hope the experience is like looking in a mirror.
I do the DNA research, and I see that I have all these primos there in northern Mexico that I don't know and that I'm never even gonna really know someday, but we're primos, we're connected. And I'm very proud that we're still here, you know, we still cling to our culture. We haven't forgotten.
And so when I think about culture, I think about the complexities, and I'm no longer doing, well, this is Spanish, this is English. No. I'm post-border. It's that in-betweenness. That is the identity. Like, the idea of hopscotch makes more sense to me than to be able to pick a side.
If I would to say, ¿Quién eres tú? Yo soy Lionel. Are you an American? Yes. Are you a Mexican? Yes. What do you paint? I paint the people from Mexico and from the US that have Mexican blood. I paint the histories, I paint the future, and I paint the present. Because all of this is something that the world should understand and know how dependent we are on one another. For families, for language, for culture, for history, for art, for food, and everything that is relevant to one country is also relevant and important to the other country.
Peace in communities is directly related to the connections and relationships that we make with people. And so the most important infrastructure that we can build are the bridges that we create between communities. It's the relationships that we have built over time in Mexico that remind us that this is the foundation for peace in North and Central and South America. It's the family bonds, it's the bonds that we create between residents in these communities that are going to sustain us for peace forever.